11 Stoic lessons to use to your advantage. When a man plays dirty with you, stop. Before you do anything else today, before you respond to him, before you defend yourself, before you say a single word, watch this video. There is a man in your life right now who is playing dirty. And here is what nobody tells you. Every move you have made so far has been exactly what he wanted. In the next 18 minutes, you are going to discover the 11 Stoic, psychological moves that will make this man completely powerless over you, without a confrontation, without losing your dignity, and without him ever knowing what happened. Marcus Aurelius ruled the most powerful empire on earth for 19 years. Senators plotted against him. Generals betrayed him. His own emperor undermined him publicly. He never retaliated once, and every single one of his enemies destroyed themselves while he kept building. He left behind a private journal never meant to be published, where he wrote down exactly how he did it. That journal is the Meditations, and what is in it is not philosophy. It is a field manual for the kind of psychological warfare you are in right now. Here's the question nobody is asking. Why are you still losing sleep over this man? You have worked too hard, built too much, and come too far to let someone else's low character become the ceiling on your peace. This video is for the man who is done reacting, done explaining himself, done letting someone else write the script for his own life. Lesson 4 is the one that changes the entire dynamic. Most men skip it because it feels too simple. Do not make that mistake. The anatomy of moral bankruptcy. When a man resorts to lies, manipulation, or backstabbing, you must realize you are not looking at a powerful enemy. You are looking at a moral beggar. Think about it with total honesty. Why would a person who possesses internal strength ever need to cheat? If someone is truly competent, truly virtuous, and truly secure in their own skin, they do not need to play dirty. They act with transparency because they know their value is inherent. This man is playing dirty because he is bankrupt. He has run out of honest tools to achieve his goals. He is a person whose soul is starving for validation or power because he does not know how to generate it from within. As Epictetus writes in the Discourses, no person is bad without being also miserable and confused. Think about that coworker who sabotaged your project, or that partner who spread rumors about you to protect his own position. Neither of them is powerful. Both of them are desperate. When you see him through this lens, the threat completely disappears. You would not be offended by a small child throwing a tantrum. And you should not be offended by a man whose character has decayed to the point of manipulation. He is an object of clinical study, not a source of pain. You are observing a tragic failure of human potential. His tactics are the desperate gasps of a man who knows, deep down, that he cannot win on a level playing field. Why would you let a person who has already lost his own soul dictate how you feel about yours? You are standing on solid ground while he is sinking in the mud of his own making. You are no longer his victim. You are the one who understands him better than he understands himself. But understanding his weakness is only the beginning. The next move is where you take that understanding and use it to erase him from your reality entirely, and most people never figure out how to do this. The sovereignty of non-occurrence. Have you ever stopped to consider that an insult is essentially just air, and a lie is merely a sequence of sounds? The only thing that gives his dirty play any power over your life is your own mind processing it and deciding it matters. Most people believe that when someone does something to them, it automatically becomes a fact of their reality. They say he hurt me, as if those things were physical wounds. But the Stoic understands that these events are entirely external. They happen out there, in the world of other people's choices. They do not have to have a place in here, within the walls of your own consciousness. This is what we call the sovereignty of non-occurrence. If you refuse to entertain his manipulation, it literally does not occur in your world. You become a psychological black hole for his malice. He throws his best shot, and it simply vanishes without an echo. As Marcus Aurelius writes in the Meditations, take away your opinion, and then there is taken away the complaint I have been harmed. Take away the complaint, and the harm is done away with. This is not about pretending it did not happen. It is about refusing to grant it the status of an event that can affect your soul. Imagine his dirty tactics as a rock thrown into a bottomless well. There is no splash. there is just silence. That silence is the most devastating counterattack possible, because it denies the manipulator the one thing he craves most: impact. He spends hours planning his move, and you spend 0 seconds caring about it. You are not resisting him, because resistance is still engagement. You are simply absent from the battlefield he tried to force you onto. This level of total indifference is terrifying to someone who wants to control you. He is shouting into a void and fighting a ghost. But making his attacks disappear is only half the equation. What comes next is how you take whatever remains of his malice and turn it into fuel. This is where most men get it completely backwards, and it costs them everything. The alchemy of social poison. Imagine a master chemist who takes a highly toxic substance and through a precise, deliberate process, turns it into a life-saving serum. This is exactly what you are going to do with his malice. Most people are easily poisoned by the dirty games of others. They drink the resentment, they swallow the insults, and then they wonder why their own lives feel sick and bitter. You are going to do the opposite. You are going to take every lie, every manipulative comment, every backhanded gesture, and use them as raw material for your own excellence. When he treats you with cruelty, he is giving you the exact environment you need to practice a higher form of patience. When he acts with blatant dishonesty, he is giving you the perfect backdrop to let your integrity shine brighter than ever. As Seneca writes in On Providence, without an adversary, virtue withers. The man who spent 25 years building a career and suddenly has a colleague actively working against him, that man is not being attacked, he is being sharpened. Think of his behavior as a specialized weight in your psychological gym. He thinks he is weighing you down, but he is actually helping you build the kind of patience and self-control that most men your age have never had to develop. Every time you refuse to sink to his level, you are performing a profound act of transformation. You are turning the base metal of his behavior into the pure gold of your own character. By the time he realizes that his attacks are making you stronger and more centered, it will be far too late for him to stop. You are becoming a version of yourself that is completely immune to his poison because you have learned how to digest it and convert it into raw strength. You are growing while he is decaying. You are rising while he is sinking. But growth and silence are only powerful if you have mastered what comes next, the art of becoming completely unreadable. Because the moment he can predict you, you have already lost. The strategic ambiguity of the sage. This is the lesson I told you not to skip. The man playing dirty is a psychological predator who is constantly trying to map the terrain of your mind. He desperately needs to know what makes you tick, what triggers your anger, and what makes you feel the desperate need to explain or justify yourself. Every single time you react emotionally or provide a long-winded explanation, you are handing him the detailed blueprints to your internal citadel. Strategic ambiguity is the sophisticated art of tearing those blueprints up right in front of his eyes. You must stop being a predictable target and start becoming a cold, clear mirror that reflects his own insecurity back at him. If he expects you to be outraged by his latest lie and you respond with a polite, neutral nod, he immediately loses his rhythm. If he expects you to be wounded by his betrayal and you remain professionally distant and focused on the task at hand, he begins to frantically question his own tactics. Think about the last time someone at work or in your personal life tried to provoke you into defending yourself publicly. The moment you defended yourself, he won, because defending yourself confirms that his attack landed. Epictetus says in the Enchiridion, "Let silence be your general rule, or say only what is necessary and in few words." By refusing to show your hand or give him a glimpse of your internal state, you force the manipulator into the pitch-black dark. He will start to overthink every move he makes because he no longer has a compass. He will wonder if you are planning a massive counterstrike or if you simply find him too insignificant to even notice. That specific uncertainty is lethal psychological poison to someone who thrives on control. You remain in a state of absolute mental rest while he exhausts himself trying to decode a puzzle that has no answer. He can see your face, but he has zero access to your thoughts. This creates a vacuum where his ego used to find leverage. He is fighting a war against a ghost. But strategic silence only works at full power when you combine it with something most men over 40 have lost without realizing it: the ability to step completely outside the conflict and look at it from a height he cannot reach. The definitive temporal disconnection. Take a moment to step back and look at this conflict through the lens of a century. In 100 years, this man will be gone. You will be gone. The very ground you are standing on might be unrecognizable. The words he is saying now, the traps he is setting, and the petty drama he is manufacturing will be less than dust. Most people are trapped in the immediate present, reacting to every stimulus as if it were an eternal crisis. They feel every sting as if it were a mortal wound, because they have no sense of scale. You are different, because you are a practitioner of what the Stoics called the view from above. You are choosing to look at his aggression from the perspective of the future right now. You are acting with the poise of someone who has already lived through this and seen it fade into total nothingness. As Marcus Aurelius writes in the Meditations, look at things from a height, seeing the vastness of time and the speed with which all things are buried in oblivion. When you apply this perspective, his dirty game loses all of its weight. You can look him in the eye without flinching, not because you are being polite, but because you genuinely find his efforts small compared to the purpose you serve. He is fighting for a temporary advantage in a mud pit, while you are building something that will outlast this moment by decades. Imagine looking back on this conflict 50 years from now. Will you even remember his name? Will the lie he told today matter in the slightest? Of course not. So why give it the power to ruin your day today? Time is the great equalizer and the great eraser. By aligning yourself with the long view rather than the immediate sting, you become invincible to his short game. You are not just ignoring him, you are outlasting him. And once you have secured that distance, you are ready to do something that will feel counterintuitive, but it is the move that makes everything else permanent. You are going to let your ego die. The maneuver of the death of the ego. The only reason a man playing dirty can ever truly hurt you is because you have provided him with a clear and vulnerable target to hit. That target is your ego. Your ego is that part of your identity that craves the validation of others and fears being looked down upon by the crowd. When this man lies about you, or tries to humiliate you in front of others, in a meeting room, at a family gathering, in front of your colleagues, he is aiming his arrows directly at your pride. He is hoping to see you flinch or scramble to defend your image, because that reaction is the feedback he needs to feel powerful. But what happens if you simply let that pride go right here and right now? What happens if you decide that your reputation in the eyes of a man who possesses no character is worth exactly zero to you? You become untouchable. You are no longer defending a fragile glass statue of yourself. You are a force of nature that cannot be shattered. As Marcus Aurelius writes in the Meditations, the mind is a sphere which remains a sphere when it is not stretched outward toward anything, nor does it collapse inward, but shines with the light by which it sees the truth of all things. By choosing to have no opinion of yourself that depends on his validation, you remove the target from your chest entirely. He is shooting arrows at a ghost. He is trying to set fire to a shadow that has no substance. You have traded the brittle glass of your ego for the diamond-hard core of your character. This liberation allows you to act with a cold, objective precision that makes his emotional games look like child's play. You are free from the exhausting need to be understood by him. You are free from the need to be respected by him. And in that freedom, you discover a standard of behavior that has nothing to do with how he treats you. But freedom from the ego is only the beginning of the move. Because now you need to understand why your integrity must remain completely non-negotiable, even when every instinct in your body is telling you to fight back. The duty of unilateral excellence. Most people live their lives in a state of constant and exhausting reaction. If someone is kind to them, they are kind back. If someone plays dirty, they feel they have a license to play dirty too. They allow the lowest person in the room to set the bar for their own behavior. You must understand that this is a complete surrender of your autonomy. If your integrity depends on how another man treats you, then you are not a leader and you are not a master of yourself. You are merely a follower of his shadow. The Stoic practices unilateral excellence. This means your commitment to being a person of high character is a contract you signed with yourself in the silence of your own mind, and it has no fine print regarding the behavior of others. You keep your word because you are a person who keeps their word, not because the other person deserves the truth. You remain professional and composed because that is your nature, not because he has earned your respect. Think about the most respected men you know, the ones who have built careers and families and reputations over 20, 30 years. Not one of them got there by retaliating against every person who tried to undermine them. They got there by staying above it every single time, even when it was difficult. As Marcus Aurelius writes in the Meditations, the best way to avenge yourself is to not become like the wrongdoer. When the lies are spreading and the drama is escalating, your refusal to get down in the dirt is the loudest and most powerful statement you can make. It proves beyond any doubt that he has zero authority over your soul. You are essentially telling him that he is simply not important enough to make you break your own internal rules. That level of consistency is what creates a legendary presence. People watch how you handle the man who plays dirty, and they see someone anchored to something far deeper than a petty social conflict. You are not being weak. You are being dangerously disciplined. But to stay disciplined when the pressure is highest, you need one more tool: the ability to see the situation exactly as it is, stripped of every lie he has layered on top of reality. The anchor of the objective reality, the man who plays dirty, is an architect of illusions, who survives by building a tangled world of rumors, emotional traps, and calculated lies specifically designed to pull you off balance. He wants you to live permanently in his hall of mirrors where his distorted narrative becomes your only reality. Your strongest defense against this psychological warfare is to become a radical realist. You must train your mind to strip away the labels he tries to attach to external events and look only at the bare, objective facts of the situation. If he spreads a toxic rumor behind your back, the objective fact is simply that certain words were spoken by a person in your absence. If he breaks a promise, the objective fact is that a specific set of words was not followed by the promised action. The sharp pain you feel is not caused by his external actions. It is caused by the story you tell yourself about his betrayal. As Marcus Aurelius advises in the Meditations, say no more to yourself than what the first appearances report. If you are told that someone speaks ill of you, that is the report. That you are harmed by it is not part of the report. This is your immovable anchor in the middle of a social storm. While he is busy spinning a web of deceit to confuse everyone around him, you are standing on the solid rock of what is actually happening. You refuse to contribute to his drama by adding your own emotional interpretation to the mix. This makes his manipulation impossible to maintain over time, because manipulation requires a victim who is willing to inhabit the illusion. By sticking to objective truth, you remain perfectly clear-headed while he loses himself in the dark maze of his own lies. You are the only person in the room who sees the situation as it truly is, and that clarity is a weapon he has no defense against. It allows you to move with a surgical precision that he cannot predict, because you are responding to the real world while he is fighting shadows. But this kind of clarity only reaches its full power when it is combined with the realization we are building toward, the final truth that will make everything he has thrown at you completely and permanently irrelevant. The reclamation of inner authority. There is a version of you that existed before this man entered your life. A version that woke up in the morning with a clear sense of direction, without spending the first hour replaying his latest move in your head. A version that went to sleep without rehearsing what you should have said. That version of you is not gone. It has simply been displaced by a conflict that was designed to consume your attention. The Stoics called inner authority the hegemonikon, the ruling faculty of the mind. It is the part of you that decides what matters, what deserves your energy, and what gets to occupy your mental space. When a man plays dirty with you, his primary objective is to seize that faculty, to become the center of your thoughts, to make himself the main character of your internal world. Every moment you spend strategizing about him, analyzing his moves, and rehearsing your responses is a moment he has stolen from your own life. The reclamation begins with a simple but radical decision. This man does not get to be the protagonist of your story. He is a minor character, a speed bump, a footnote. From this moment forward, you give him the absolute minimum amount of attention required to protect yourself practically, and not 1 second more. You redirect the energy that was going toward him into the things that actually define your life, your work, your family, your health, your goals. As Epictetus writes in the Enchiridion, seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish. but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life. The tranquility you want is not on the other side of defeating him. It is on the other side of deciding that he is not worth defeating. That decision changes everything, and it sets you up for the move that follows, which is the one that most men in this situation never make, and it is the most important one of all. The discipline of constructive silence. There is a silence that comes from fear, and there is a silence that comes from complete confidence. The man who plays dirty is counting on you to confuse the two. He expects that your silence means you have nothing to say, or that you are afraid of him, or that his narrative is winning. He is wrong on all three counts. Constructive silence is one of the most sophisticated psychological tools in the Stoic arsenal. It is not passive. It is not submission. It is an active, deliberate refusal to engage on his terms. When you stop explaining yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you, you free yourself from an exhausting cycle. When you stop defending your reputation to people who are not in a position to evaluate it fairly, you preserve your energy for the people who actually matter. The men who have built the most respected careers and the most stable families are almost universally men who learned, usually the hard way, that silence in the face of provocation is not weakness. It is the highest form of discipline. They learned that every response to slander gives the slander more oxygen. Every defense of your character in the wrong room gives the accusation more credibility. The world respects the man who keeps building while others are talking. As Marcus Aurelius reminds himself in the Meditations, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The man who screams back at the wind does not change the wind. The man who plants while the wind blows changes his own life. Your silence is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of the chapter where you stop reacting and start building. And that brings us to the final move, the one that closes everything, and the one that this entire journey has been preparing you for, the triumphant conclusion. The soul unconquered. Finally, we reach the ultimate realization of this entire journey, which is the absolute truth that the only person who can ever truly defeat you is yourself. The man who chose to play dirty with you thought he was fighting for a petty promotion, a temporary reputation, or a fleeting moment of social power. He was playing for worthless crumbs while you were playing for the only prize that actually endures, the kingdom of your own self-mastery. True victory is not about forcing him to apologize or experiencing the hollow satisfaction of seeing him fail publicly. True victory is about looking in the mirror at the end of the day and seeing a person who remained entirely untouched by the filth that was thrown their way. You have walked through a storm of lies and manipulation, and your internal light is burning brighter and more steadily than before you entered it. Most people lose themselves in the heat of conflict. They become bitter, they become suspicious, and they eventually become cruel in response to the cruelty they receive. But you have used this experience to build something that no manipulative tactic can reach. As Seneca writes in On the Firmness of the wise man is not subject to any injury. It does not matter how many darts are hurled against him, for he is impenetrable. This is your new permanent state of being. You are impenetrable. The silence you offer this man is not submission. It is the formal announcement of your total sovereignty over your own mind. He is left alone to deal with the consequences of his own character, while you have ascended to a level of peace and clarity that his small mind cannot begin to comprehend. You have taken back the throne of your own life. You have decided that your peace is far too valuable to be bought or sold by his petty provocations. You are no longer a reactor to the world. You are a conscious creator of your own experience. Leave him behind in the chaos he built for himself. You have a much greater life to live than fighting over the trifles of the small-minded. The game he tried to trap you in is officially over. You are the only one who walked off that field with your soul completely intact and your head held high. Stand tall in your new strength. Breathe in the fresh air of your own freedom. And never again let a lesser man dictate the height of your character or the depth of your peace. You are now truly unconquered.